Hey guys, it is the 11th of January 2021. I've got Marti with haircutsknox.org. She's coming in. We're going to talk about some of the homeless situation here in Knoxville, Knox County. I got to go see her operation yesterday. It was really fantastic what they're doing, but it's also a little awful at the same time getting to see how many people, and that's just the people that show up to her events, but how many people in Knoxville are suffering from homelessness. Want to get the intro out of the way so that when she comes on we can get right down to business. So I'm going to pause this here in a second and then we'll start right back up when she gets on the Zoom. We are live on Facebook if you've already seen it. Again, I'm excited about it. We've talked a lot about expanding what we're doing on the show, not just solely direct politics, some of the culture and community that we have here in Knoxville, Knox County, because we want to be a part of that. So as soon as she jumps on the Zoom, we'll get started with that part of it. I appreciate y'all for listening, and here we go.
Yes.
I cannot see you currently.
Oh.
But we are recording, and I'm excited to have you guys, and it'll pop up visually here in a second. It might be me. There we go. Now, the first question I have to get right out of the gate is that you go by Marti, correct? Not Martha.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I really appreciate your invite and coming out yesterday. And in a selfish part of that for me, it was the right excuse to get my family excited about clearing out a bunch of extra stuff we had around here that we had no use for. And I personally appreciate that because that helped clear some of the clutter we had around this house.
Well, we appreciate you, brother. We needed it, every bit of it. And the toys will be going to many
Good.
people.
Because that was one that, I mean, it's a lot of stuffed animals. My wife, when she was allowed to work, was working down on the campus area. And for those around town that have probably seen the guy, there's a guy that sells stuffed animals and flowers and balloons that goes around the bars at night for, guys trying to hit on girls. And so he would frequently stop by there and she would pick up like one or two every night for our kids. And then all of a sudden we have a room that literally was like a foot deep of stuffed animals from all the different times because she's a sucker for cute stuffed animals. So that was that part of that story. And so I got in touch with you between my friend Jennifer as well as John Bevel, who ran for mayor. I got to talking to him and he put me on to you. And so as we've talked back and forth, trying to get this timing together and all that different stuff, one of the things that we talked about that I think is an important thing for people to hear is kind of like, for me as a parent, I struggle with how to broach this conversation with my kids. You got to meet my kids yesterday, and they were a little uncomfortable, understandably, being in that situation. But for me, I don't know how to properly talk to my kids about when I'm driving down the road and I get on an interstate exit and you have the guy on the side there with his sign who is suffering with homelessness, and how to talk to my kids about what's going on in a way that they can understand and keep some of the selflessness that a lot of kids have naturally, but also kind of broach the safety issue and how to deal with an individual with your own personal safety in mind.
I can understand that.
And so again, like I guess the first question is like, how do you feel like is a good way to approach the topic with children for other parents out there that run into situations?
Well, what we've learned at Care Cuts is you have to be with your parent at all times. When you see someone on the side of the street, basically you pray for them.
Okay.
You can have packages in your car, a bottle of water, a protein bar, a banana. They can't eat apples.
Right.
And just give it to them and tell them God loves them. I mean, that is the best thing to do. You cannot give them money. Money keeps them where they're at. And I learned that because my husband and he used to give them 10 at the interstate and I'd give him 20. I'd trump him. So it's just not, as I get involved with more and more helping the homeless and seeing their needs is food, cleaning them up, and giving them dignity and hope so they can move forward to where they need to be, not be on the sidewalk, not be on private property. It's just unacceptable. I even met a pastor one time. I'm gonna give you this one to think about. He told the homeless, he come up and under the bridge and told them this was God's country and they could live there as long as they wanted to and not to listen to the officials. And they came to me and they're like, Miss Marty, but they're running us off. And I said, well, honey, you deserve more. You deserve better. Let me help you. What do you need to get to A, B, C?
Right. So what I'm hearing is that
Your question is get the care bags in your car and let you see giving kindness and love to the homeless.
okay. I like that. That's good. That's a good, simple, straightforward. It will give my children the opportunity to feel that selflessness and helpful and being helpful. But it also is something specifically that could be good for them in their situation. Because what I'm hearing from what you're just saying is it sounds to me like one of the major issues is that the acceptance that this is their reality for some of the homeless people that you've met is that it's not that they just give up on wanting more and being more than what they are. And that's one of the chief kind of factors in staying homeless for some of the people that you've met. Is that am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, they don't want to be homeless. Nobody really would. You've got a few gypsies, but the most of them are mentally challenged. They're experiencing addiction from trying to self-medicate themselves. And I totally believe, and Tim Hill, I think he'll second me, he believes that it's really from mental illness.
Right.
No one would choose a needle to put in their arm.
Because I was speaking with my sister-in-law who in a past life was a corrections officer, and she was telling me about one of the issues that they had is a lot of these people, when they're in, they have that very regimented life, especially medication-wise, is that the staff in the jail has, this is this person, they get these medicines at these times and all that stuff, and then that lack of structure when they get out kind of gets them off their meds, gets them back into self-medicating, as you said. And so I guess one of the things that I thought about talking to her about it is, are there transition things that are in place? Or, I mean, not that it's inside your guys' direct wheelhouse, but do you see that as an issue as well, I guess is the better way to ask the question.
Are you saying when they come out of the hospital, when they come out of jail? Is that what I'm understanding?
Right. When they come out of the prison system for whatever reason they were in, when they had the psychiatric help in jail, and they had a medication regimen that was forced upon them, for lack of a better word, but that forced regimen of medication kept them regular on getting the right medication they needed. And then when they're out on their own, they lose all the structure and either forget or don't take their meds and then end up in the self-medication thing, as you were mentioning. So I guess my question is do you see that as true? Is that true to you in your experience with some of the locals?
I also see them come out of there and they don't know really where to go. I mean, even though they're instructed in the hospital, it's let's get them out the door, because that's what they do. They move them on. And so we are now partnering with the state probation board, DRC. I just got off the phone with Officer Caldwell, and we're helping several that are on probation. What we're going to do for one particular gentleman is we've rounded around him, and we've been mentoring him, and he's going to get a job, and we're going to get him a motel for 2 weeks. So then he can pay his own motel, okay?
Right.
They can't just start out. They don't have good references and all this. So the best suggestion is at Care Cuts, we are ground zero. We send them to Cherokee Health. We send them to Helen Ross McNabb. We send them to private, we even have some private facilities that will take them.
Mm-hmm.
What is the faith healing? What is that called? On right there on Broadway. It's been in business for years. There's so many resources.
Right, because that's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot too. Is it seems like there are a ton of resources, and I guess a thought that had crossed my mind is one of the problems that we are having trying to help is trying to get all those resources lined up in a way that's useful. Like, is it?
Yeah, so that's why we spend time with them every Sunday. Well, okay, so we just yesterday there was like 10 people left there with a plan. what they were going to do today. I've already had 3 texts today of where they've gone and what they're doing. They need accountability. And we're just sort of that missing link. That's what Care Cuts is. We get several over and over that come right on the off the Greyhound bus.
Mm-hmm.
Had 2 yesterday, one from Memphis and one from California. They'd gotten out of prison. Then flat time, he told me, 30 years. I said, oh, so you're off probation? No. He said, do you know where the probation board is? I said, you better believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take you there myself.
Right.
So actually this morning I met that gentleman and had other people with me, and we took him over to Elm Street.
Excellent.
You know, you can show him one time.
Right.
Now that don't mean I'm going to take him tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Right. It's
But
the
they got to do their part.
the lead a horse to water parable, right?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay, so one of the things that's been a hot topic in a broader political sense, and I know we're going to be soft about this. I'm not trying to pin you by any means, but there's been a very strong conversation about policing nationwide and how that translates into our conversation in where when you send a cop out to a thing, it's automatically an adversarial situation. And there's been a lot of talk about kind of changing the way we police into more social workers as part of the police system. Is there anything that you have heard or that you have ideas on maybe a better way to do that could be helpful?
I just heard the city police department is partnering social workers with the police officers, and I think that's fantastic.
I think so too, because I think one of the issues is we don't know, like a lot of times the police have the short resource of the only place they take anybody is to jail or to the hospital. And even that, they don't take them to the hospital. They call rural metro or whatever to pick them up and take them to the hospital. But right, I'm curious how that's going to work long term. I'm excited about it as an idea, but again, like I said, I was just curious your thoughts on kind of the way this national conversation about changing policing is going and how that affects you and your work.
You know, Seth, let me chime in here.
Sure.
For just a minute. This is Tim. While that's probably the best idea we have before us right now, we've kind of ignored or overlooked the biggest problem. And the biggest problem is lack of mental health resources. So if we had these facilities readily available, then we wouldn't be having these repetitive police calls dealing with these issues. So we're reacting to it on the back end.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
When we should be dealing with it on the front end.
I get what you're saying. That is a very good point. That I wasn't thinking about until just now. And so I guess again, it's a question of, do you guys feel that there are enough resources? It's just a matter of moving the pieces in the right place, or do you think we are short in both governmental resources and private resources to make the steps required to make this? Because I mean, I guess part of it is there's a reality that there will be, as you called them, gypsies. There are people that just are there and they're going to be there no matter what we do. But for those that want to change and want to get out of this life, do you guys feel that there are resources? It's a matter of juggling what's there, or is there a need for more actual resources, or at least more maybe management of the resources that we have?
There's definitely a need for additional resources.
Okay.
And to say wanting to get out, you know, many of the folks in need don't even know how to hope to get out.
Right.
They're in such a state of hopelessness that they don't know how, and they've lost the desire. So it's up to, you know, outreach is a big thing today that there's not enough of. You know, I see Marti go under the bridge and pluck people out and literally save their lives because they're stuck in a cycle where I call them the drug vultures are down there getting them addicted to drugs when they're off their normal medications because they don't have a facility to go to be regularly medicated. And because of that, you know, the drug vultures get them addicted, get them stuck in that place, take their whatever resources they have, could be social security checks or anything of value, and they can't get out. They can't escape. It's it's some form of homeless slavery at that point.
Right. I follow. So, okay. Yeah. Because like that. And so that goes back to the beginning where Marty was saying giving them money is the worst option because it gives them a thing of value to trade with your vultures.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I mean, like I said, for me in this podcast, what we've done traditionally has been very politics first. And for my team that we do the podcast with, our schedules are kind of diverting, and I'm in love with doing this thing. I really have a good time doing it. And so I decided I wanted to expand into more of the social and community aspect. And so you guys are my first really non-specifically political interview I've done. So I'm at a little bit of a loss of what I'm doing. But what I'm hoping to get out of this is to share information with people that are interested on ways to help, things to do either on their own or groups to get involved with. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to open the floor to you guys to kind of speak to my audience as a whole with your message and what you want to get out.
Well, we have to remember that it's somebody's daughter, it's somebody's mother and somebody's grandmother and so on and so on. And so we just go with love and invite them in. You saw yesterday, Seth.
You were a champion of that. That was the most, like, sorry to interrupt, but like I know exactly where you were because I've done like events and stuff for previous jobs and stuff like that. And when the event is on, there's 10,000 things going on and your mind's on all of them and you were scattered and you kept apologizing to me, which you didn't need to. I totally understand. You're running around, you got a million pieces moving. But I very much saw in that where, I didn't count, the other volunteers didn't count, that person that you were interacting with right then and there. You could see very plainly that there was a connection there, that your empathy, your understanding, and your love for that person, may not have ever seen him before, was very clear, and it was very impactful to me personally, and I appreciated that.
And that's just what we do. And then, have you heard of birds of a feather flock together?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is going into our 5th year, 2021. And so God has equipped me with a lot of people that have the same heart as me. I can't do what Tim Hill does. Tim Hill can't do what I do, but we've got a team. We have a board. We have volunteers. We now have a director over operations, and it's working. It's working. We got 4 people into CARM yesterday. 4. 2 thought they were kicked out, and they were not. He said, no, bring him on.
Right.
And 2, one that had never been there, and one that had carried a knife a 12-inch knife. And so we pretty much set him down and said, look, this is it. You know the rules. So when Care Cuts refers you back in, buddy, don't put my name on the chopping block.
Right.
So we sort of, we're ground zero. They have hit the bottom. But a lot of what I see is black eyes on these ladies and men.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that that's going on, and we want to be able to reach out and get them to safety. Karen Pershing has started mentoring me and with Knoxville Drug Coalition. So we are learning so much. We partner with Angelic Ministries. We partner with CARM and VMC and Salvation Army. So we try our best to take them one at a time and say, what can we do for you?
Right.
This is your last chance, buddy. Come on, let me help you.
Right. Okay.
If you want it. If they don't want it, we love them, feed them, clean them up. How could you, let me tell you a story. This veteran I found, okay? Nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted to talk to him. He was living in a culvert under the bridge in a ditch line.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got him up to Care Cuts. We got him cleaned up. He's not going to walk up to Central Avenue Pike to the Veterans Association and get his DD-14 papers. It took me 6 months to get that man in my car and took him up there on Central. Yeah, it's just right up the street.
Right.
But he's not going to go. He's depressed. And he feels, he didn't go to the probation. So he was afraid he was going to go to jail.
Right.
So I reached out to his probation officer. I said, look, buddy, if you help me, let's help this man. He said, we don't want to put him back in jail, Marty, but he's got to go by the rules. So the probation board and I met, and we took him up to there. The man got his he got his benefits, his DD-14, and he's now living over here off of in an apartment and getting his benefits.
That's good. Now that does bring up the question. I mean, I'm sure you don't have a pure stat of it, but like, how many veterans do you guys see? A lot.
A
Like,
lot.
I mean, again, just
Yesterday, I probably spoke with about 14 veterans.
all right, and out of how many total that you guess you had down there?
And how many did we have?
Right. How many total? I'm just, like I said,
We checked them in at the registration board. I think there was about 26 there. Most of the others have already got housing and
Total help yesterday.
total helped yesterday.
right. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just like a ballpark percentage of what you see was what I was after. It's not important. I'm just curious.
On the veterans? Or
Yes,
the
ma'am.
whole-
Yeah, the percentage of the veterans of the whole homeless population that you work with.
the veterans yesterday.
Whatever. No, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Outside of veterans, everybody.
Oh, we served 378 folks
Yesterday.
in that parking lot
Okay. So
from 10 to 3. We close at 3
mhm.
because our neighbors, they've got businesses and they open them and we try to close.
I gotcha.
That's why we're wanting to also be a day center to try to do this more often than once a week. And then we open at 8 and we close at 3 or 4 because they got to get back to Carm. I do not ever want to make someone stay homeless.
Right. I understand. I was like, again, like, my business partner, he's a Marine. My dad's an Army vet. My brother's a Navy vet, and I've got a lot of veterans in the family. And so that's always something
Calm down, brother.
that I chose to not, and I'm not mad at my decision, but I always have a little bit of a sensitivity to it just because of my family. And, as you know, Jennifer, who owns the Veteran Rations food truck, that's their whole kind of one of their main drivers is veteran homelessness and veteran needs. So I'm always curious about that part of it. Cause again, my sister's a veteran as well. And so, or my sister-in-law is a veteran as well. And so the corrections officer I was talking about earlier. So some of these different things and how they line up, especially with mental illness, some caused by things that they did while they were serving. And that's just one of those that homelessness in and of itself is disappointing and sad enough as it is. And then you take somebody who went and sacrificed or committed to sacrificing their lives for this country. And then we don't have something in place to catch them on the way back when we were the ones through our military actions that did some of this damage is one of those that drives me crazy. Not to downplay anybody else in the conversation, but just because I've the interactions I've had with veterans, that one hurts my heart a little bit more. So like I said, I don't have a hard set of questions I want to ask. That I really got through everything that the kids, the talking about your kids and preparing for just, having things available when you do interact. I thought that was the most important thing I wanted to get out. Is there anything else that you guys want to share? I mean, we'll get to at the end, we'll do like how to get to the website and donation stuff, but a story of another story of a particular person that you thought was particularly impactful that you'd like to share, anything like that?
Well, Tim?
Why don't you take the most difficult one, the one that is certainly a miracle, and that is Geraldine. Talk about Geraldine. What was her diagnosis?
Geraldine was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, and she came to Care Cuts. You can tell, I can tell now, the homeless, which ones you can help, which ones you can't, because some of them that are off to themselves, they don't have friends, they don't have, the gang that they run with. So Geraldine came, and I noticed one day when she came that she had something on her mouth, and I thought it was chocolate milk, but it was a scab. Geraldine, I said, please stay afterwards. So she stayed afterwards, and come to find out, she was beaten and raped the night before, and she was deaf. She was 98% deaf. And so I asked her to let me take her back to where she lived. And so we put her in the car, I do, and I take her back, and she's living under the bridge. It's now called the City Day Center. It was before that was developed. And this was 4 years ago. And so we started visiting with Geraldine. I did start spending my days off with her. and started taking her to the doctor and started trying to figure out who she was. She had 2 last names in the system of Cherokee Health. It took a private detective that my husband and I hired to find out exactly Geraldine's story. She was a Jane Doe. Geraldine was abused by her family, by her daddy. She found her mother dead, her daddy, and then DCS come in. The father killed himself right in front of Geraldine. Geraldine was given to her Uncle Donnie. Uncle Donnie raped Geraldine and the mother. And so then Uncle Donnie's son that she got put in the bedroom with raped Geraldine. And this went on and on. And then Geraldine was beaten so bad by her family. Her sisters burnt her. I have all the documentation of this. Burnt her hair. And so when we got her, all about 2 inches back from her hairline, had no hair.
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but how old is this woman?
She is now 56 years old.
Okay,
She was
and
born in 1964.
okay, and when did you start? When did you get to meet her and start working with her?
5 years ago.
Okay, that's again. I was just I was
Yeah.
like
Trying to get
part
a
of
picture.
right. Well, part of my head was like this is like a 20-year-old that's been
No,
and so this is okay.
So when she became 18 years old, her sister down here in Lenore City that had moved from Illinois to Lenore City come and got her, and they took her check, her sister. And so she walked the streets of Lenore City. And so finally the sheriff of Loudoun County took her to Skyline Hospital in Nashville. And Geraldine stayed there for years. And then they transferred her from there to Lakeshore. And then when Lakeshore closed, she winded up downtown Knoxville, homeless.
And then how did you help her?
We helped her get her ID, her identification. We helped her get her medicine. And we were talking about that a while ago, Seth, if they were just on their medicine, not self-medicating. And that's not true. It's a package. They have to have sleep. They have to get clean, as far as hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have love and medicine and food. So that's why I'm all about supervised living. This is what's going to help solve homelessness. Okay. So Geraldine is now with us for 4 years. She's the salon coordinator where I work. She volunteers at Care Cuts. She does the front line with Linda Long. She does name tags for the homeless. And they love seeing her. The homeless love seeing her. They're like, wow, is that crazy woman? That's what they called her.
Right.
98% deaf. She had no glasses. She couldn't see. And we've got all of her parts.
So it's not just a total success story. It's an example. The other folks get to come down and meet her and see what is possible, which is something that a number of people could have lost that hope, as you said earlier, Tim. They don't have the hope that it's a possibility anymore, and they get to see her and say, they could, whether they're comparing themselves to where she was or whatever, but they could see that there is a way out of where they're at, and this is an example of it. Because I did notice that on a couple of people that you said that a number of your volunteers were and have been placed and have moved on, but come back to help. And I think that in and of itself is maybe probably the most positive piece that you put there to show the other ones that there is a place there is progress in what we're doing. And I think that's fantastic. I don't like crying on the air. Stop it. Get me all misty. But
now Tim Hill knows more about the housing and stuff like that, and we both are on the same page with thank God for other housing. But these folks, if it's not supervised, they're not going to keep it.
Right.
And what that means is, like, say, me and Tim live at Flanagan's Landing, and you come to see me, you can't see me if you're not on my list.
Right.
So a lot of your housing apartments, people are living there that don't even belong on the lease, number one. Number two, they're coming in and taking over their residence, just like they did. I call it indoor homelessness.
Right. So you have other people.
I can tell you about the structure that we need to help these people be successful with housing.
Well, the other big challenge is just to get them re-engaged in society, because they've been isolated for so long and ostracized by their family and friends. And Care Cuts helps guide them to places to get them re-engaged uh, by simply first starting with all those basic needs met and then getting their credentials. You got to have credentials to work.
Right.
Work is a good avenue to build your community back. So these are the things that don't seem that exciting, but they're just basic steps to getting them reconnected with society. Isolation is probably, the biggest issue that they have once they've decided to move forward.
Right. Okay. Right. So because they have no contacts, they have no. Right. I follow what you're saying. Yeah.
And you had mentioned something about the ball stadium, Seth.
I did. I didn't know if you want to do that one. I'm curious. Like, I've got.
I see that as creating jobs.
Right. That could be indeed. One of the, because when we get into stuff like that, is that it regardless of whether it's going to be tax assisted funding on building the stadium or not, like that, that's a major project that's going to displace what's there. And I don't know how many people are living or spend their days down in that area. I know the old city used to have a pretty good population that moved around in it. Go ahead, Tim.
You will not displace people. You will actually bring people to that community. There's no one to displace. Those are abandoned manufacturing facilities.
Right, but I'm more speaking of displacing the homeless population that uses the fact that it is abandoned as a place to be. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not for what you guys are working on. If because it's like I saw a story about a week or so ago, the police department cleared out one of the under the bridge areas and pushed the population that was there out. And whether that is more damaging to those individuals trying to find a new place to hunker down for the night and become their camp, for lack of a better word, and whether a stadium would do something like that to a group, whether that displacement being the issue.
We need to find them. We need to get them in proper places.
I agree.
And those are not proper places. They don't deserve that.
Right.
Even though they've accepted it, they don't deserve that. So, and we also have to serve, all of our city, not just one faction of our city. And we have some groups that merely are tunnel visioned on one issue, and it can't be that way. We have tax-paying citizens all over the city, and we deserve to serve all the citizens.
I agree. Right.
We just can't serve one faction. It won't work that way. Government doesn't work that way.
Right. I understand. Like I said, I was just like this baseball stadium thing is just kind of blown up as such a hot issue, and trying to suss out all the different little nuanced things that come along with it. And, since you guys have a particular subset of the population that you focus on, I was curious your thoughts on how that would affect that.
I think it's a positive move. And anytime that you can generate additional tax dollars, some of those dollars will likely end up helping those in need. And so we would be expanding our tax base by generating probably, I would estimate, somewhere between $300 to $400 million of investment. The old city, and I've read a lot of history of the old city, it has never lived up to its potential.
Right.
It's kind of been that seedy area to some degree.
Right.
And you're starting to see a rise, and some of that rise is the anticipation of all of this development that will soon come via a ballpark. And if you've ever toured some of these cities that placed these stadiums in their downtown, you'll see it's an obvious benefit to the city. Go to Greenville, South Carolina, go to Greensboro, North Carolina, go to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Those are just some examples of the unbelievable success that a public facility has brought to the community.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to necessarily go down this road. So, but I mean, so what I'm hearing from you, Tim, is that if you could vote on it, you would be pro tax funding for this stadium.
Absolutely.
Okay. And again, I'm not trying that. I'm not trying to paint a corner.
We're for parks. We're for many things that the government subsidizes.
Right.
Just because it's the ballpark, it's going to be it's going to be a multi-use facility. It's not just for 80 80 or so games a year.
Right, because that's one of the things for me that I would love to see it down there for, because when World's Fair stopped doing concerts down there on the World's Fair lawn, they only do the 4th of July anymore. Like a good outdoor venue for a concert doesn't exist here anymore, and I think that would be a great thing that they would do there.
There's certainly a need for outdoor entertainment, and that would be one perfect place for it.
Right.
And the other beauty about this proposal, we don't have to have the added infrastructure such as structured parking.
Right.
You know, we have all these underutilized facilities at the Civic Coliseum, all that parking that people can park there and take a short walk or a shuttle to this ballpark. It's these structured facilities that kill the vibe of the downtowns. And we have the perfect place, and it's the perfect moment, and it's a one chance in our lifetimes that we'll ever get the opportunity to see this, because Randy Boyd's lease comes up at Sevierville, I think, in 2024, 2025. So we either have to say yes, or it's gone for probably 20 plus more years.
Right. I understand. Yeah. That's interesting. Because, like, personally, I've had a very skeptical stance on tax funding for it. But I'm trying to be open to argument. You know, I'm trying not to be like, this is what I decided and I'm stuck and I'm going to argue against it no matter what. Because
the better option to do nothing. That's kind of the starting place.
Well, my catch personally is that if we don't fund it, the assumption is he won't do it. Randy won't the Smokies won't do it. They won't come if we don't pay for it. And I don't know. I guess one of my broad questions that nobody but the Smokies organization, I guess, could answer is if they'll do it anyway. Because it seems to be, I don't know. My thoughts on it is, it feels to me like that is a want from the organization to come back into Knoxville proper. But whether that want is offset by the funding is one of my curiosities. Like, part of me thinks that they would do it anyway, and I have no basis for that.
I'm highly skeptical that they would do it anyway.
Right.
But these are a couple of things to remember about this stadium. One, he's also committed another, I believe it's $140 million of private development around this stadium. What a deal that you have a man that not only bought the land, but is willing to go in with an additional $140 million. And, you know, I'm a private developer as well. And I will tell you, we have already started investing in the old city. And when I say $300 to $400 million of additional development, that's what happens when you place things like a stadium that becomes a catalyst for that area of the city. And that's kind of the last piece of the city that needs the most help right now. We need jobs on the eastern side. You know, we've addressed almost every area of downtown. You know, northward, we've had Riga Square and the development going north. And once the bridge is built across Broadway, we're going to see that RFP'd and have probably $100 million worth of development down the train tracks. And that's the northern boundary. The southern boundary across the river, we've seen all the development to the south. And then on the west, you know, we had the convention center. So it's the east that has lastly been addressed, and
right.
It needs the most help. We're also getting the museum, you know, the Clayton Museum over there. So great things, exciting things are happening on the east side. When people stood up so loudly and said, why not east? Why not do something here? And now we're hearing complaints. Well, we're displacing. There's nobody to displace.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
Right.
This is, a lack of a better term, a home run in all aspects.
Pun intended. Very nice, very well placed pun on that one too. I again, this was not where I was set up to have the conversation, but I'm happy to have it. I like I said, I'm open to the argument. Like it seems reasonable to me that those impacts make sense. Like, it makes sense to me that that investment churns out all the stuff around it.
I haven't even mentioned the fact that we would be capturing state dollars that otherwise would be headed back to the state that we get to keep as part of this district that we're creating, the Sports Authority District. So we're basically building a stadium on a tremendous discount because the state will allow us to keep dollars that we otherwise would have to send back to the state.
You see, these are the things that I don't think that most people know that in the conversation. And that's one of the things to me, and that's kind of the point of the show to me, is I'm trying to find out these little details that maybe get like a sentence in the newspaper and move on, like we the regular person understand what that is. Like, there's tax money that we get as for making a sports authority and doing these different things. That the little nuance of the tax code and the way it moves back, the way the money moves from collection here and sales tax to Nashville, and what brings it back and what lets it stay in the state and spread otherwise. Like, all those little nuances are I think are lost on we the public in our ability to engage well informed in some of these conversations. And so this is super exciting to me. I may not be articulating that well, but I don't think that anybody has explained in the conversation these parts of the details that I've seen. And I think it's important because I think, again, like I said, I was pretty staunch on the idea that I don't think taxpayer funding makes sense, but I didn't know this part. And so that opens me up to being a little bit more open. It's like, well, it is tax funded, but even though this is the dollar amount they're talking about, realistically, a big chunk of that dollar amount's coming back to us that we wouldn't have gotten anyway.
And when you see that additional $300 to $400 million of private development around the stadium, guess what happens from a property tax standpoint? Those
Right.
values go up, taxes, additional taxes are collected, and a portion of every tax dollar goes to fund the school system, the education system.
Right.
So how can that be a bad thing too?
Right. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to figure out. I've been working on a longer term story about trying to understand the school board budget and how that works. And it's talk about nuanced and details and all sorts of stuff that are above my accounting level. But I don't know what to say except thank you for that information. That is something to file away and start to work on as I have more conversations with more people about it. But I don't know what else we got that you guys.
That's the reason I wanted my board member to be with me today, is because as well as you find out, I'm just a barber and I love the homeless. And so God has put us together to figure out what I see is jobs for the homeless. And see, Tim sees the whole picture.
Right.
So that's why I wanted you to meet Tim Hill.
Well, I appreciate that. That was as much as you like to downplay how smart you are. You're pretty smart, lady. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. But you know what you don't know, and that's one of those things about people in general that I think is one of the hardest things for people in general to get over is pretending like they know something when they don't. The acknowledgement of I don't know certain things, and I'm going to seek out people that do, is I think one of the smartest things in anybody. And that's one of the things that I'm personally working on. I'm still suck at it, but one of the things I personally work on is trying to acknowledge the fact that I don't know this thing, and either I need to figure out how to figure it out and learn it myself, or find somebody that does that can help me understand it better. And if that doesn't make you one of the smartest people I've met doing this show, I don't know what does.
Oh, thank you. Well, I teach the homeless to go by the rules and stay in your lane. And I truly believe that. Whether you're going into Carm for the night and they say, oh, there's so many people in there and I can't do this and can't do that. Well, it's not a bed and breakfast. Thank God for Carm. You go in there, you get your dinner, you get your shower, you go to bed, and you get up and get out.
Right.
So the reason that I'm trying my best to be a day center at Care Cuts instead of just on Sundays is because Geraldine's and Bears and all these people, they have nowhere to go. Carm has to shut down to clean up because they come back in another night and every night. They're open 7 days a week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The only other place that I know that the homeless can go to get a cup of coffee or to get some, to talk to someone without an appointment, I don't know any other place you can just walk up and say, hey, you got time for me today, except for, BMC has a program and they can go into their building and do the same, but they can only take so many. And
Right.
so we've got to help these people on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, you're going to see them sleeping on the streets. You're going to see them on the sidewalks. You know, I can drive down Gay Street and I know their names.
Right.
Sleeping on our benches, drunk. They don't have nothing else to do. They're depressed, and it just trickles down into a depression that nobody care. They don't care. Well, we do care.
Right.
So come on in here to Care Cuts, and we're gonna make your day better.
That's fantastic. So one last thing that I wanted that I do want to ask, and kind of we can close out on this is, 2020 was a crazy year. We had the whole pandemic and all this stuff going on. Did you guys see an increase in population that you could associate with the result of? Okay.
We had a grandmother with 3 children at Care Cuts yesterday. You talking about breaking your heart?
Mm-hmm.
She said, "I heard about you." I said, "Well, come on, honey." Well, we just scooped them up and took them inside.
Right.
Them babies left with your toys. They left with stuffed animals. She left with a letter to go to Helen Ross McNabb first thing this morning. Yes.
Well, it's
She didn't know where to go.
Good.
She's never been homeless before.
Yeah, because again, that's one of those things that I think, again, talking broader conversation and all the madness that has been this past year. Because to me, anecdotally, I feel like I noticed more than I did before, and I don't know if that, again, through this show and through some other stuff going on in my life, I've kind of changed the way I'm looking at the world anyway. So like, this is a question I ask a lot: is there more going on, or am I more aware, or is it both? And I guess the answer you're giving me is it's probably both.
And Seth, one other thing about, we consider ourselves a social service facility, and currently, and we're working on this and working with our local government, but currently the social services facilities are only allowed in an institutional zoning. And so we hope to get that expanded to other zonings, because we know the homeless don't just end up in an institutional zoning.
Right.
So currently where Care Cuts resides today, they are in a non-conforming use, and we're trying to get that changed and hope to have that changed in the next near term, 60 to 90 days.
Good.
But that's one of the, I guess you'd call one of the basic or structural issues or challenges that we're faced when we try to reach out and assist the homeless. You can almost recite in many communities, they'll say, "While we think it's a noble cause, we don't find it appropriate in our community."
Right.
Well,
it's
we
gonna
need
be,
it.
it's
really
going to be
in all
here.
communities.
Right. It's going to be here. We need to deal with it. We need to deal with the reality of what's here, not what we want it to be. We can't just want it to be not here. It's going to be here. I get that. That makes total sense to me. I've got some commissioners coming on this week, and I'll do my part to make sure that they're aware when and if any zoning comes up at that. But I just had a thought and it escaped me. Shucks, I lost it.
So if you see a homeless person, you just tell them to come to Care Cuts.
There you go. And that's and for everybody listening as well, it's that would be an interesting thing. And I don't know if you guys are doing any sort of maybe like I don't know, maybe like the packet we were talking about, the little like snack pack to have in the car. If there was some sort of like form flyer that you guys could put on your website, I could print those out. I could staple them to that flyer, and then when I give it to a guy on the side of the road, not only does he grab a little something to eat and whatnot immediately, but he is now informed of a resource that's available to him. I think that I don't know, just throwing ideas in the wind here, but I think that would be something that hopefully anybody listening that wants to get involved but maybe doesn't have the time to come down and do stuff directly through your location can kind of work in the periphery to help bring people in need to you. So again, for me, I'm out of stuff. I'm actually swimming. My brain's going crazy right now because there's so much to it. And this goes with everything and all the different stuff that's going on around the community. Trying to get a clear, precise picture inside the bigger picture, it just twists my brain up every time I do it. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get that out because I think for me, like talking about, knowing the things you don't know, for me, I know I don't know a lot of things, and I'm assuming that I'm similar to a lot of other people, and a lot of other people don't see this information out, don't have access to this information. And so I'm literally trying to sell my ignorance to the community. That's kind of my format for the show. And so I can't thank you guys enough. Please do the website, do the Facebook page. Any way anybody can be helpful to you guys in your cause. And I will put stuff in the show notes so people listening can click through and get right to you guys. But yeah, contact for you guys. Go.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I'm happy to do it. So it's carecutsnox.org.
Yes, sir.
It's Carecuts Knox on Facebook.
Sure.
Is there a phone number or an email that you guys prefer people use, or?
We've got founder@carecutsnox.org.
Okay. So that's how to get a hold of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right. And so it's every Sunday from 10 to 2, 10 to 3.
Yes, every Sunday.
All right,
Every Sunday. Saturday is donation day, so you can drop off your donations on Saturday from 9 to 3.
Excellent. All right. So like we said, carecutsnox.org if you want to reach out. I've got a little outro piece to do, and I appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate that. Like I said, I didn't expect all the baseball talk, but we talked baseball, which is a hot topic issue for me. I don't know if you're inspired to be helpful. Carecuts.org is probably carecutsnox.org is probably the easiest way to get in and do what you can. Like she said, every Saturday they do donations. Every Sunday they do their event. If you want to help out, it's right there downtown. It's right behind the Carm building. It's easy to get to, easy to find. And these are people. They're just people that are stuck in a bad situation. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes when we get in the hustle and bustle of our lives, we forget about other people, and we're just too focused on ourselves. So if you're inspired to do something, please reach out any way you can. I can't thank Tim and Marty enough for coming on. I don't know, maybe we'll check back in a few months and see how things are going and see if we can't drive a little more help their way, both in the politics side and just general volunteers. Thank you guys all for listening. I'm going to pack this up. I think this will release on Wednesday, but we'll see what happens. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody who was on Facebook Live with us. Have a great day.